Welcome to a new episode of our podcast, Lead the Future. Change the conversation, an unedited, honest conversation to create this future. I'm Arjan Visser, futurist and your host, and join me as I chat with my dear friend Laura Ishardt about healthy leadership is the answer. What could be the question? Laura is the founder of an executive leadership talent boutique serving the management consulting industry. What I love most about Laura is her heart to go for the person beyond the position, to help them see and activate their real talent. And maybe most important of all, to step up who they really can become. Laura, thank you very much for joining me today in the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Love chatting with you always.
Yeah, it was fun. It's already a while ago when we talked. So, what do you think that could be one of the questions that healthy leadership is not just a nice thing to do, but actually essential to have?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously gave me a heads up that this is what we'd be discussing, Arjan, and I suppose that the difference that I can add here is talking from my own experience. And as you well know, because we're in another amazing peer group together, in our family, we've had lots of complex personal circumstances this year. It's been a tough year, and at the same time, there've been as a lot of tension. I suppose we've done what Brene Brown calls rumbling with vulnerability. We've just had to hold a lot of tension to just keep moving forward. And I think that I will take the learns from this year, and I will definitely be a better leader. There are silver linings all over the place in the year that I've had. Not everything is resolved, but I'm different. The way I cope with situations is different. The way I lead is absolutely different, and that's at home. That's on social committees I'm on. That's in my sphere of influence in the market. And so I think the question I would ask myself about healthy leadership is what are the learns, what are the takeaways from the really tough stuff that I've been through, the rumbles that I've had, where it's been really raw. I've had to be vulnerable. I've had to be dynamic. I suppose I've had no choice because the pressure's been on to have a style that's rooted in my true self. And as you say so eloquently in your book, this is when the true leadership comes to fruition, when you're fully integrated, you're bringing everything that you are into your leadership. And I think I've had a real chance at improving my leadership style through the challenges and the hard stuff this year.
Oh,
So that's
thanks
a
for
really
sharing.
long answer to the, I suppose the question is, what has the difficult stuff taught me, and how can I turn that into a gift for the people I lead?
Yeah. So what I hear in your answer is like, well, the reality of life actually demands you to develop your leadership, and you choose to be vulnerable and reflect and learn. Um, and I think that creates that openness that is essential for to make leadership healthy. Because if you don't open, then actually it's not authentic. You're not
Mm,
modeling it. People don't see the real you. So,
mm,
or it is fake, or maybe even worse, you ask people to do something that you're not modeling yourself, and
yeah,
that how friendly it still sounds, it
yeah,
doesn't have to be nasty. It is a form of control because it's not who you are. Like it's your words and not your actions. So I love how you say, like, it's finding that wholeness, holistic perspective in the dimension of the family challenges, the business challenges.
Yeah.
It's not separated from your personal development. I love that.
And I think, and that's not because I read a lot of business terms and listened to a lot of podcasts and did a lot of self development. It is because it's just I've had to. I've had to be real and authentic and bring everything that's been going on in my life to work. It's just been impossible to separate it all out. But I suppose what I can bring to people that I'm leading is I won't be asking them to go places that I haven't been myself.
Yeah.
And people can smell that, can't they? They know when you are um, when you've been there, you've been on the journey, you've done the hard yards, your credibility, your influence is far greater,
Yeah.
and that's healthy leadership.
Yeah. It's not based on what you produce, but it's based on who you are. And so the trust is based not on the repetition, but actually on the authenticity. The Even when the situation is totally chaotic, new, never been here before, we know which people to trust because we have a history with them where they reacted authentic, made
Mm.
mistakes, learned, cleaned up, pushed through, and actually achieved the impossible by simply just not giving up.
I think that's it. And as you and I and the others talk about in our peer group, we are constantly challenging each other on what 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 results are we connecting ourselves to? What are our deliverables, our measurables? Are they still what they should be? And are we just so fixed on end results that we're not celebrating a process and a period of growth and tension that we're going through? That's what I love about our mastermind, is that you have a group of people who allow you to stop and celebrate the progress that you're having that you
Hmm.
can't see because you're so fixated on a set of results. And we know that in business, it's the ultimate measure of success is currency, it's money. But the best leaders, the healthiest leaders, understand that that is just an outcome of really healthy processes and the really important work.
Yeah. Yeah. And how you describe it, I was just thinking like I don't like that the drive of where we stare on each other's behavior.
Mm,
That's a huge industry. I think it's unfair because people start to behave to what's expected, and that then it's just a matter of time before you lose touch with who you are.
mm,
We came from a result driven society with the
mm,
processes and efficiency and all those things. We didn't like that either.
mm,
But when you talk about that outcome, that fruit, it's not that same result based as we had like a decade ago, but it is like, there is identity, there's sometimes suffering, there's vulnerability, there's learning. That whole process
mm.
manifests in something we grow, and it can be measured in business, ultimately in money. But like you say, like, true leaders know that is a manifestation that is part of the fruit, but there is so much more fruit. And maybe one of the top line ones, well, when money is the bottom line result, then one of the top lines is the well-being
Yeah.
of people who are out of comfort because they are embracing that there is more in life with all the aspects from home to work to society. There's more in life to achieve. It's not a comfortable ride. It's
Yeah.
on the roller coaster where there is no track laid out yet.
Mm.
You know, in that you but we need well-being. We can be at peace when we have no clue where we are, no clue where we are going, and we use our imagination to have an imagination of the hope we have, how it will look like.
Yeah.
We get energy from it, we get drive from it, and then our peers help us not to escape in the future, but also look at our behavior. Like, it's not producing what you talk about. It is not, well, what do you say? It's not embodying what you talk about. Like, are you sure that your behavior is in line with your vision? Because your people see the embodiment of your behavior, and if your vision is different, that alignment. I love to have peers in it because I trust them
Mm.
to be really critical on me, but there is no way they are have in any aspect a jealousy or an envy of, because it's not about the positions. We're not about talking about stake, about winning against or on behalf of each other. No, it's like helping each other to run the best race.
I love that, and I can't imagine. I simply cannot imagine doing what I do, which is, I'm a solopreneur, without having a community of peers that remind me of the stall that I set out and remind me of what I told them was really important to me, which is never about, the end goal is never really about a massive profit margin. To me and to all of us, it's a byproduct of doing great work, serving the people that you believe you've got increasing authority and influence with. And that helps me to celebrate the process that I'm in. And quite frankly, it's helped me to survive a year where if I was just measuring my success on uh, results and good, positive, happy outcomes, I would consider the whole year a failure. And that's absolutely not the case. It's been a year of rumbling with vulnerability, and I guess I'm a lot better at it now. And a big
Yeah.
part of what I do is, once I've placed a management consultant in a role, increasingly I'm interested in how they land and how they replicate the success that they have had in another organization in the one that I place them in. It's not always a given, because you need to build up an internal network, your influence, your personal brand, and that just doesn't come on day one, particularly when we're all working largely virtually.
Yeah.
And so I have such a special desire now, and it's really growing in me, to onboard people well and to um, make sure that when I'm placing people, that they're aligning well with their personal mission.
Yeah.
And if I haven't walked through challenge and a crucible of tension, and also had people like you guys keeping me accountable, I I wouldn't have authority helping people with an onboarding process.
So true. Yeah, while you were talking, I just had this image, like, it's really old, the Walkman. As a kid, I bought a new Walkman, and instead of only volume, I also had these other three dials that I could use to fine tune the music I was listening, a bit more bass and treble.
Wow.
And it was another one, But life now, with all the dimensions, it feels like you're in a recording studio.
Yeah.
Life became this like there's 120 channel audio panel where everything has switches, dials, knobs, and you try to fine tune that for yourself, for your family, for your clients, because there is more in it than just the sum of the parts.
Yeah,
And we tend to forget that, you know, when you get into a new role, everything needs to be dialed in again.
absolutely. And I love that analogy, because what we love to do is in our digital age is to think we can control everything through buttons and connecting into different networks and different settings and applications. And we like to control what we see, what we digest. Actually, it's never really a case of just being able to be a sound engineer of your life and achieve a perfect sound. You're never going to be in complete control. So there's always going to be a dial that we can't quite adjust according to our preference. And I think that's when the really good leaders come through, because they understand that ultimately that final dial is not something they can have complete authority over. They can handle the complexity and roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you know, the soundboard of your voice as a leader. Well, then everything works out perfectly.
Mm.
But the room where people hear it can mess everything up.
Yeah.
So, what is the right room as a
Yeah.
leader? What's your room? That's like your relational context of where you have most authority, where your voice sounds best, like how it is meant to be. So, that space, you know, you can prepare yourself, but then it still has to come together with that you end up in the right room.
Yeah, with
You
the
know,
right acoustics, the right lighting.
yeah, but that is like a culture. The culture you
Mm,
create, that is the room that
mm,
you invite people in, or the space. Maybe that's a better word. Then we go away from just the physical four walls, but it's that space that you invite people in, where your authority sounds best and has the most impact and influence. So it nurtures them best, so they flourish best. And that,
completely agree. Completely agree.
yeah.
And the other thing that I'm not sure if you remember our conversation about this as a group, but we talked about time and um, how wonderful it will be to time travel and be outside of time. And one of the things that I've been really reflecting on is that I sometimes think I'm a victim of time. And I think one of my resolutions for 25 is that I'm going to tell time what it's going to do for me. I'm going to be much more, I'm going to be a much better steward of time rather than it holding me hostage.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, and I think for maybe for listeners like time traveling, but you know, that's just on the language. If you have a vision, it is ahead of the now.
Mm,
So to put your vision to words, you have to time travel, you know,
mm,
place yourself in that moment the vision manifests, and how will it look like? If
mm.
you want to do strategy, you need to know the end.
Yeah, yeah,
And futurizing, we take those two concepts and say, then we can derive what will be the last step, the step
mm,
before, all the way to what's the first step. We call that backcasting.
mm.
So time traveling actually is a skill set that every leader has.
Well, you've actually represented it diagrammatically in your book. Um, and I can't quite remember where it is, but there's a really simple, easy to comprehend representation of forecasting and future thinking. And here it is. So we're sitting in the status quo, but then a little bit further ahead, imagining that now and being
Yeah,
seen from the future, all the way through to your emerging authority and your future identity. And I love that, because it as you always do, you've simplified what feels like a really grand complex process. into, well, this is actually all it means. This is what future thinking is, and you
Yeah.
make it accessible for all of us to do.
Yeah, it is. It's not an easy process. Actually, it's quite complicated, but that is what humans are best at. Like all our relationships are complicated. We're not
Mm,
predictable. We're not robots. We're not
mm,
processes. We're not even resources.
mm,
You know, so we are complicated, and that's what we are designed to do. That's what our brain can do. And
mm,
and we have our imagination, we have our dreams, we have our visions, we have our strategies. Those are all things that are not manifested now,
mm,
and we call that whole bunch the future. And yeah, one of the things to not live with time being a resource which is always restricted, and there's
mm,
always scarcity and lack around it, is actually to see that the future is coming to me. So it's becoming part of the now. And the past is actually everything that has not became part of me, but everything that became part of me in an earlier moment of now,
mm,
is not my past, is not my history. It's me. It became part of
mm,
me, my life. So actually, your life is expanding with understanding, but mainly unfolding your identity, your authority. So that's what everything we talked about. Like it became part of me,
mm.
and it doesn't matter if it happened a decade ago or 40 years ago or maybe even generations ago, and it's part of my DNA. It's part of me in the now, and the future is all those things that are part of me but not yet manifested in the now. And that's why it's so important that our ideas, our dreams, we need to try to imagine how the manifestation looks like, so that we can have a tool set to know that what we do today is
Mm.
not futile, but actually it's still valid for tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that's what we call living from tomorrow, which
Mm,
is, I think, not just an optional thing for a leader. And in my book, I say everyone is a leader because
mm,
your choices or the lack will influence those in proximity.
yeah.
So there's no, you could say leaders grow up,
Mm,
which I think is the best way because all leaders are born, and all leaders develop.
yeah.
So in that unlocking of who you are a leader, which means you have a dream. Could be
Mm,
very far away from your current paradigm, but you have a dream.
yeah.
And so you have vision, which means that actually everyone is a visionary leader. And that's what I love peers. Peers help me not to be lonely with the vision that I have and cannot
Yes.
explain yet to others or
Yeah.
myself. Because loneliness is a fact of being a leader, but it's so we can say I'm not lonely. Then I'm sorry. Then you have to push a bit harder on your vision, and you will be lonely because.
Mm,
But it's not a excuse for isolation.
yeah.
Isolation is the wrong place, but loneliness is just embrace it. It's your cocoon where you can imagine the future, get your hopes up, get your joy from, get your energy stirred, get your drive healthy, but don't use it to be isolated
I
because
think that's right. I think it's the very nature of a leader is to be lonely on a mission, but to share that, to be able to share that loneliness is the key. And the reason it's lonely is because sometimes you have to hold a hope that others around you can't yet. I think that's what you're describing,
yeah,
but it's a yet rather than a never. And that's you're helping people to catch your vision. That's a healthy
that's
leader.
where you build bridges. You build
Yeah.
bridges for those people to cross over to where you are at, and you
Mm,
need your peers to actually find language to invite people over that bridge, because else you just build bridges, you have no language to invite them over,
Mm.
So you decide to go over, and then you found out, no, that was wrong. I ended up using my bridge to compromise my vision.
Yeah, that's a beautiful image. Yeah, it's the holding hope. It's constantly redefining what you regard as your success. That's what peers do. And then the finding language for where your emerging authority is, that can only really come from others and from them giving you permission to dream when you're just thinking, am I nuts? Because this isn't happening right in front of me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That did I forget to dream? Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's a trigger. That's what your peers give. You have permission. First reaction, yes, I know, but wait a minute. I didn't give myself permission. Oh, I
Mm.
didn't dream. And I ignored I didn't dream. Yeah.
Yes. Time after time when I interview people, I'm asking them where they see themselves in 5 years. What's the absolute ideal? No holds barred, no imposter syndrome, no none of those beliefs that nag at them. And people always have to take a beat to think about it. It's not something that's on the tip of our tongues. My ideal scenario, my dream. We're not as a society, we're certainly not engaged with our dreams. Maybe that's why we all get so caught up in love at first sight and those shows where people get married after meeting each other once on a video screen because we just want the silver bullet.
Yeah, the fix, not the
Yeah,
journey.
but being in the dream is great. But when it's reality, it's not a dream anymore, it's happened. So it's actually
Yeah.
a really lovely place to be, as long as you have people around you saying, keep going. I give you permission to make that picture bigger because I can see you doing it. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to hold hope for you when you don't have it for yourself. And that's what your peer groups do. That's what you do in our peer group. And you hold hope for us and give us language, or more than giving us language, you get us very cleverly, as all good coaches do. You encourage us to come up with our own language of our emerging authority.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. A lot to unpack. Before my head starts spinning, let's do the rest of our conversation in the next podcast.
Well, it just gives me so much energy, Aaron. And
Yeah.
your book is so digestible, and I love the way you have versions. So when you're thinking about your elevator pitch, for example, you don't just say, write your elevator pitch. You say, do version 1, then go away, do version 2. And that's really embodying leadership. It's iterating, changing, accepting imperfection, but saying it's good enough, move on.
Yeah. It's a journey, iterations.
Yeah.
You know when you prepare well. So, and every argument you have to find perfection in the now is based on the past, and that's the one certainty you have. You never will go there again. So
true.
yeah, I'll just invite all the listeners to the podcast and the live stream to, there must be something that resonated with you. And like I always invite people, if something resonates with you, that's a golden nugget. That's a trigger. Don't let that just go away. Don't rationalize with your brain, not now, later, because it's a one, it's not FOMO, but it is a one-time opportunity when a golden nugget triggers you and it resonates. So that's actually in self-reflection, that's where the learning starts. So I just invite you to take a first step and connect to Laura, connect to me. You can use the link businessrevivalists.com/connect. whatever serves you, but
Yeah.
don't let that golden nugget disappear and not become part of your life and just vanish in what's behind you.
Absolutely. And we both give you permission to dream.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to dream.
Yeah. Just think, maybe if you have small kids around you or teenagers, just go and sit with them.
Yeah.
Ask that what they want next year and the year after. They don't have to think long. They immediately have an answer. And then it's your turn. So and then you find out it's still there. So
Brilliant. Love it.
so take care.
Thanks, Arjan, as always.
Bye bye.
Soon. Bye.